Outlook is a core app that everyone must use when their company is using Microsoft. The application has evolved a lot, especially with the new Outlook updates that makes the desktop app look more like the web application. Now, this has brought up a lot of questions, so I decided to do a video series. So, whether you're an absolute beginner or you're just looking for a refresher, you're in the right place. First, let's make sure that you have the new Outlook desktop app installed on your computer. It should have been pre installed on any Windows 11 or later machine. To find the app, click on the Start button in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. In the App section, you can click on All and search for Outlook. When I click the Filter button and select Apps, the results should narrow down to two options. The one that says Outlook is the newer version. The one that says Outlook Classic is the older version that Microsoft plans to phase out by 2029. If you see the new app, you're done and you're ready to follow along with this video. If you don't see it, go to the Microsoft Store to download it. In the new Outlook experience, the desktop app, which I'm displaying now, and the web app are designed to look the same. I'm going to demonstrate from the web application because in the desktop app, you can't scale the interface to make the left-hand navigation menu or the navigation pane look bigger. Therefore, it will be easier to see everything on the web application. If you haven't used Outlook on the web before, there are two ways that you can log in. First, you can go to outlook.office.com/mail. You will be prompted to enter your email and password. The second option is to log in from the Microsoft 365 Copilot homepage. I typically go to the Microsoft homepage because it allows me to have one place for all of my Microsoft apps instead of having several bookmarks. To find Outlook, go to the left-hand navigation menu and click on Apps. And then Outlook will be in the center of the screen in the commonly used apps section. To make it easier to find next time, click the three dots on the app card and select Pin. Now it is a favorite on the navigation menu. Now let's take a look at some basic navigation. On the left side of the screen, there's a vertical navigation menu with buttons to switch between the different features associated with Outlook, such as Calendar, People, and Groups. In this video, we're going to focus on the Mail tab. At the top of the Outlook page, there are different tabs to organize features and actions. Most of what you will use is found on the Home tab. Below the tab is a ribbon. It's broken down into categories like New, Deleted, and Respond to group actions together. Notice that several of the buttons are grayed out. When you select any email, many of the buttons will then become accessible. In the main part of the screen, there are three sections. The first section is the navigation panel. This is where you can switch between folders, add other accounts, and create favorites to organize your email. The next section is the email pane. You have two viewing options. The combined view shows all of your emails together, and the focus view separates your inbox into two tabs, Focused and Other. Your most important messages are on the Focus tab, and everything else goes to the Other tab. Outlook takes into account emails and contacts with whom you interact, and it filters out sources like automatically generated messages and bulk email. The one thing I would caution you about with Focused View is that some of the auto-generated or bulk messages are important. For example, if you use approvals built into Microsoft, those messages will go to Other. Then people often miss the approval request because they're not in the habit of checking the Other tab. The view you choose will depend on your workflow and how you prefer to organize and view messages. I personally use the combined view and then set up rules to organize my email. We will look at that in a different video though. The last section of the screen is the reading pane. When you select an email, it will show up in this pane and then you can read and reply to the message. Now let's look at how to create an email. Go to the Home tab at the top of the screen. In the ribbon on the left-hand side, click New, or you can use the hotkey N. At the top of the message template, you have 3 fields to enter email addresses: the to line, CC line, or BCC line. The standard rule is to use the to line to send a message to people who need to read the email, take action, or you expect a reply from them. The CC or carbon copy option is used when you want to keep people informed about the conversation, but they don't need to take action or reply. For example, this email is going to be about a reporting deadline. Adele will submit the reports, but her boss Diego needs to know about the deadline. BCC is blind copy. This means the email addresses are hidden from the other people also receiving the email. This is often used for privacy when sending mass emails and everyone doesn't need to see all of the email addresses. It also prevents people from using reply all. For example, you may send an email asking for an update from all departments regarding the upcoming reporting deadline. The HR update does not need to be seen by IT or marketing. A reply all would not be appropriate, but it happens all the time, so you can solve this problem by using BCC. Next, you will enter a subject line to quickly identify the topic of the message. Then you will add your message to the body of the email. I pasted a sample message so you don't have to watch me type. I would like to draw your attention to the ribbon at the top of the screen. When composing an email, you will be on the Message tab. In the Basic Text section, you have some formatting options such as bold, highlight, change color, bullet points, etc. In this example, I want to emphasize the due date, so I'm going to make it bold. Notice when I highlight the words, a pop-up toolbar appears with a few formatting options. You can also use shortcut keys, and in this case, bold would be Control B. At the bottom of your email, you will add your signature block. Your company policies will determine what you need to include, but it's usually something along the lines of name, title, and work phone. But here's the thing, nobody wants to type that information for every message. So let's go back to the Message tab and select the drop-down for Signature to create and save a signature that will automatically be inserted into every email. We're going to start by giving the signature a name. Then you will add the signature information. You can even add links such as a link to your company website for emails going to clients, or you can add a link to an internal SharePoint site for emails going to coworkers. Once you decide what's in your signature block, click Save at the bottom of the screen. Then you can go and select your default signature for new emails. Then we're going to go back and repeat the process for a different signature block for replies. Now you can use the standard signature block for both, but some people choose to use a simplified version for a reply. After you create and save it, then you can add the default reply signature. Now let's go back to the ribbon and select the drop-down for signature. You will see the different signatures that we just created. So if you need to use a different signature based on who you are sending the message to, you can select the appropriate one from the list instead of having to type it out every time. This message looks fine, so I'm going to click the Send button in the upper left-hand corner of the Compose email box. Now we're going to look at another scenario. Adele asked for a copy of the metrics template, so I'm going to create another email with the attachment. If the file is on your computer, you can drag and drop it into the body of the message, and notice that as I'm hovering over the message, there's 2 different options. You can attach the file directly to the email, or you can upload it to OneDrive and share it as a link. When you drop it into the Attach a File section, Outlook inserts a suggestion to upload it to OneDrive so that you no longer have multiple versions, and it says that hosting the file on OneDrive makes it easier to collaborate. I'm going to remove this attachment so that we can look at the other options by going up to the Message tab in the Insert section and selecting Attach File. If you choose Browse this computer, you'll end up with the same result as dragging and dropping the file into the body of the message. When you go back to Attach File and select OneDrive, this is where you can search your Files section and select a file that already exists in your OneDrive as compared to when you drag and drop the file, it's adding it to your OneDrive. Now, speaking of uploading files, if we go back and choose Upload and Share, this will allow you to grab a file from your computer and then select a specific folder in OneDrive instead of using the standard attachments folder. So I will select Change Location, scroll through my folder lists, and then choose the appropriate one to upload the file. This will insert a link into the body of the email. The last option is Insert Link. I use this when the file is saved to a shared location such as SharePoint or Teams. The link is inserted into the email, but it's important to know that the recipients of the message must already have access to where the file is saved. If they do not, then the link will turn red so that you know someone will not be able to open the file. In this example, I added Grady to the CC line, but he's not a member of the team where the file is saved. When you click the link, you will see who doesn't have access, and then you can select Manage Access to update the permissions. In this case, I will choose Recipient of the message and then click Apply to accept the change. The link turns blue to indicate that everyone receiving this email can now use the link. I'm going to quickly add a message and the email is ready to send. But when I created this message, it was after work hours. Outlook is suggesting that I schedule the email instead of sending it now. To do that, click the drop-down arrow next to the Send button and choose Schedule Send. Outlook is going to suggest some times based on the next business day, usually at 8 a.m. If you don't like that choice, select Custom Time. This will bring up a calendar where you can choose your date and you can choose a specific time. So for example, Adele comes in a little bit later, so I'm going to select 9 a.m. so that she can see it first thing in the morning. Then I will select Send. The email will be in your Drafts folder and marked as scheduled. Anytime before the send time, you can go in and change when it will be sent, any information in the email, or cancel and delete the email altogether. I just realized that I accidentally on purpose scheduled this for Sunday instead of Monday, and I forgot to add some information about why Grady is on the CC line. To fix that, I can click Cancel Send, and it will put the email back into a draft status. Now I can update the message and then go back to the drop-down and reschedule it for the correct date and time. If you no longer need the email, you can get rid of it by clicking Cancel Send and then go to the upper right-hand corner to click the trash can icon. Outlook is going to ask you to confirm this action, and all you need to do is click OK. And now the email is completely deleted. Next, let's talk about replying to email. When you have an email selected, the Respond section on the home ribbon shows options for reply, reply all, forward, and meeting. You'll also see the options at the top of the body of the email. When you choose reply, only the person who sent the message will see the response. In this example, Adele sent a message that has two people on the CC line. Diego and Henrietta need to know the answer to the question Adele asked. Therefore, I need to select reply all. Now, as a best practice, you should not use reply all as the default. One infamous example is when a manager sends out a message asking the whole office for time off requests for the holiday. They may even say, only reply to me. Yet you end up with a flurry of reply all messages. Take a moment to consider if everyone really needs to be included in the response. Fixing this one thing can improve productivity for everyone because we no longer have to take the time to clean up all of these extra messages in our inbox so that we can find the emails that we really need. The next option is to forward a message. There's a little bit of a difference between forward in the top of the email and the one that's in the ribbon. In the ribbon, if you click the drop-down arrow, you have the choice to simply forward the message or forward it as an attachment. In this scenario, I need to talk to Grady about Adele and Henrietta swapping reporting dates. I can forward the message to him so he can weigh in. Let's say Grady calls me on Teams to give me the answer. So I'm going to select Reply All to Adele because the answer does impact Diego and Henrietta. Then I'm going to add Grady to the message because he wants Adele to contact him directly with any concerns. That is the basics of getting started in Outlook. There are several ways that you can customize Outlook by updating the settings. We're going to take a look at how to do that in the next video.